as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. As long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in.
Hey, we've got Sally Orange. I cannot believe that is your real name, and you're going to have to stand up. Look what you're wearing today. This is
I've got my orange costume on.
Dressed as an orange. Oh my goodness. Sally, I am so pleased you're on my show today. Thank you so much for coming on. I want you to
be on. Thank you so much.
I want you to introduce yourself, because I was going to do this amazing intro because I've heard you being introed all over the place, but I want to hear it from you because you are so modest. So come on, anyone who doesn't know who Sally Orange is, tell us.
So I am Sally Orange, and that really is my name, because people quite often think that I have changed my name because of what I do. But I served for 22 years in the Royal Army Medical Corps as a physiotherapy officer. Unfortunately, I got medically discharged because of poor mental health with regards to depression and anxiety. But I now run marathons around the world dressed as different pieces of fruit. So I found sports and different challenges to be helpful for my mental health, and I use it as a way to break the stigma and change the conversation on poor mental health by dressing as fruity little numbers. In a nutshell, that's who and what I am. And so I now am a professional speaker and tell audiences about my journey in the hope that it helps others not get to the point where I got to.
Yeah, no, and this is the thing, and we had a quick chat before we came live, so there's nothing I can't ask you. But the first thing I want to say is you're very modest, because you've also raised a little bit of money over the time. How much are we at now?
Well, I've raised nearly $1 million.
I thought it was pretty close.
For nearly 50,
crazy.
Over 50 different charities. So
wow.
It's been, 2007 was the very first marathon that I ran. I've ran 84 now, and swam a few channels and cycled across a few countries and skied across across the Arctic and bits and bobs. Yeah.
And was it November 23 you went to the Palace?
It is, yes. So yeah. I was incredibly honoured to be made an MBE, which I tell people stands for Marathon Babe Extraordinaire. I'd been to the Palace previously dressed as an orange, because I speak to gold award holders for the Duke of Edinburgh's award. So I've been once as a slice of lemon and once as a slice of orange. But actually, when I went to the Palace, and in your picture, I look a bit like a blueberry, but I did actually wear a dress for that one.
You look absolutely amazing, and the photo. I'm just going to see if I can find it quickly, because I showed it to everybody last week, to get people to come on. If you're listening on the podcast, I do apologise. It doesn't work. It's not here. I haven't got it loaded. That's annoying. But yeah, it's a picture of you, absolutely looking amazing and so proud, so proud. And so you should be, because to go from, so I know your story. I've been stalking you, Sally. I've been listening to all your podcasts, and you actually wrote a note, didn't you? A little suicide note. Because
I did, yeah. I remember to this day exactly where I was, what I was wearing, and kind of saying to myself, this is it. This is the end. I wrote the suicide note ready, thinking at the time. I didn't know much about suicide. I didn't know the impact that it would have had on other people. And I felt that it was the best thing to do to relieve everybody else of me, because I was the burden, and I just didn't want anyone else to have to deal with me and the burden that I'd been. I'd had people tell me that I was a burden, and so I just thought, actually, it'll be easier for them then if I'm not here. And I did then ring Samaritans, and I then got help from the crisis team. I had to move back to my parents. I had to move back to Staffordshire and move in with them. And I do distinctly remember at one point sort of saying to my parents, if you loved me, why why wouldn't you help kill me? Why will you see me going through this? And I liken it to my time in some ways in Afghanistan, that I actually wish that I'd not come home from Afghanistan, because that way the outcome would have still been the same as if I'd taken my life, but it wouldn't have had the impact on the friends and families. Had I not come back, there wouldn't be that. Could we have done anything different? It would have just sort of happened. But yeah, sort of through lots of therapy and medication, help, that I've now sort of pulled myself out. There's still dips, I'm not going to pretend it, it's still there, and I still take medication, but I'm okay with taking medication now, and I'm okay with talking about it, whereas previously for years I hid it. I didn't tell anyone, and how could anyone actually help me if I wasn't telling them that there was a problem? And that's what I want other people to know, that it's okay. If I was diabetic, I'd take insulin. If I was asthmatic, I'd use an inhaler, and there's not a problem with any of those. So no one knows that I take the couple of pills in the morning unless I actually tell them. But I'm more than happy to do that if it means that other people get that help as well. So very, very open and honest about it now. I lost my career, so what have I got to lose? But in actual fact, one door closed and another one opened, and this now is my career.
Yeah, who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? And
turning a negative into a positive.
Absolutely. If life throws you lemons,
make lemonade. That was just going to be what I was going to say.
No. Turn it into a costume and run across the Antarctic. Isn't that what you did?
I did, yeah, but actually it was the lemon. So I did, yeah. I got my nice hair out.
Was that a bag of peas?
Well, I did it. I've done Antarctica twice, because I've already done a marathon on every continent. But then last year I actually did 7 marathons, 7 continents in 7 consecutive days. So I chose to do that one as a pod of peas, because I'm now doing every continent as a vegetable. But I also I'm so passionate about wanting to take this message around the world and to the top of the world. So earlier this year, I actually took on the Everest Marathon. So I dressed as a slice of lemon, because that time I wanted to be ice and a slice, and really wanted to take the mental health, conversation to the top of the world and shout about it from there.
No, that is just incredible. And it's because of people like you that we're talking about mental health. I do an awful lot on LinkedIn, helping people with LinkedIn, and you'll see people talking about mental health. You'll see people talking about having a bad day and stuff like that. And because of people like you, it's now acceptable to talk about it, because we never did. And when you were in Afghanistan, you saw soldiers coming to you because you were a physio, so you saw soldiers coming to you having lost limbs. And that's a bad day at the office, isn't it? And you patch them up and you help them get better and stuff like that. But we know that person's got a problem because they're wearing a prosthetic or they're in a wheelchair or something. But we don't know. Look at you. You're smiling. You're happy. But we wouldn't know that you suffer with mental health. We wouldn't know that you take pills. What's your message now that you've been talking about it for so long, for those people that maybe are having a bad day today, Sally?
Well, a number of things, that we all have bad days, but I liken mental health very much to the weather, that sometimes you can wake up and you don't feel great, but as the day goes on, you get better. But other times you can wake up feeling great and perhaps something happens and the day doesn't go, but it changes all of the time, and it's being prepared. So if you know that it's going to rain, you take an umbrella with you. So that's where in your own individual toolkit, you need to know the tools and techniques. And that's where the therapy has helped me to kind of know what to do when I'm slipping down. I forget, that we all have things that we enjoy, and they're all different for different people. But when you get into that deep, dark place, you can forget what it is you even enjoy. So I now write a list of the things in my phone, so that if I'm slipping there and I think, well, nothing, there's absolutely nothing, I know the things that can lift me up just that little bit. So yeah, that's a good tip. And also, the really darkest places when, I did think nobody would miss me and actually people would be grateful if I was no longer here. I now have pictures, in a special part of my phone of the people that would miss me if I wasn't ill, or that I would have an impact on, that can help me, push on to the endurance of wanting to, or needing to live. Because there's times when I don't want to. It's still, it's still a very bumpy journey. And it hasn't all suddenly gone away, but I just know the tools and techniques now that will help me with that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some great stories that you tell in your different podcasts. The one that inspired me the other day, I was running across the seafront and there was a load of lampposts at the seafront. So tell us about this was one of your, I don't know what day it was in your, well, first of all, who on earth signs up to do 7 marathons in 7 days?
On 7 continents.
Yeah. Who does that?
Well, I must admit, I was the only British female on the whole thing. I think there's only 5 females in the UK, partly because of the expense of it. And, I'm not rich to suddenly be able to go and finance that. It took me 4 years to get sponsors behind me that would help me project the story, because it wasn't about me doing the run. It was, I wanted to get this message out there that it is it's a global problem. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Dubai, I will never forget it. It was the fourth marathon out of 7. And I was really struggling, and it was along the boardwalk in Dubai. And I remember seeing these lampposts, and I just thought to myself, right, I need to just run to that lamppost. So I'd run to the lamppost, and then the next one I would just walk to, and then I would run, and then I would walk. And I wasn't thinking about the next mile that I had to complete, the next marathon, the next 3 marathons that I'd still got to do. I was literally just looking at that lamppost. They became my friends, and I literally at the end gave them a hug because it's what got me through. And I think, it's a real message for, when things become overwhelming, if we focus on it being so overwhelming, we won't achieve. But if you do just break it down, I could have broken it down into a marathon, but that was still too much for me. I could have broken it down to the mile. That was still, I couldn't see myself getting to the end of that. So it was just lamppost by lamppost. So taking your life, getting yourself through life, lamppost by lamppost. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great metaphor. We are live, so I'm just going to quickly say hello to everybody that's here. We've got Michal. Galvin loves these chats, and John Emery says, "Wise words, Sally. Very touching." This Everest thing, you didn't run a marathon all the way up to the top of Everest, surely? Come on. No, so it started at base camp. So it took 10 days to get to the start line. So it was 10 days to get to base camp. They didn't fly you in by helicopter or anything? No. So how did you get to base camp then? Is that just climbing? And how high is that? Yeah, 2 flights and then a helicopter ride. That was to Lukla. Because the weather wasn't great, and then it was the 10-day trek to base camp. And we did actually get to camp at base camp, which is something that usually if people go to base camp, they get to the rock that's there, and then they go back again to the Gorak Shep or wherever they're sort of staying. But I've got a really interesting story that I'm proud of the marathon that I did in at Everest. And I'd like to say it was downhill, but if anyone's ever climbed to Everest, you very much on the way to base camp are like this. So the marathon is also like this. But because I was wearing this lemon costume, our guide on the day, I know everyone that people would sort of say, what's the lemon about? And I say, I want to break the whole narrative, change the conversation, break the stigma associated with poor mental health. And we got to a place where we were going to go to something called Kalapatar, where you get a really great view of Everest and the surrounding mountains. And I'd actually been with the army to Everest Base Camp previously. But on the day that everyone was going to Kalapatar, I didn't go. I was in my tent crying. This was back in 2010. I was in my tent crying, and I just told people at the time that I'd got altitude sickness. But in actual fact, I knew it was my depression and me having this story, I'm not good enough, I won't make it. And I was telling our guide this, and I said, you know, it's just the depression. And he said, you have depression? And I said, yeah, you know, and explained about it. And he said, well, do you think I have anxiety? And I said, you know, he was this great, gregarious, really fun-loving guide. And I said, no. And he said, I do. I really struggle. And I said, oh, how do you manage it? And he said, alcohol. Anyway, on the way back after the marathon, we had a couple of days to get back to where we flew back to Kathmandu. And he said to me, he said, Sally, he said, I need your help. I need your charity's help. And I said, oh, I don't have a charity. I just raise money for charity. He said, I know that with my anxiety, I will drink myself to death if I don't do something about it soon. So can you help me? We got back to Kathmandu, we went online, and we sourced a charity that can now help him. He's now been to the GP. So for me, the biggest success was that a male from a different culture, the Nepalese culture is very different to ours, felt that he could come to me and say, I need to get help, otherwise I won't be here in 10 years' time. And that, yeah, that was the biggest success that I was really, really proud of with that. So yeah, lemons do change lives.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing that you do, because you dress up as anything, and then so therefore people will just talk to you, won't they? You know, if you just had your running kit on, you're just another runner. But if you're that orange or that lemon or a cracker or nuts or a bag of peas or a prison convict, you know, how big is your wardrobe for all these costumes?
Yeah, under my bed is full of different costumes, and I'm now going to do every continent as a vegetable, because I'd already done Antarctica. And you know, just getting young people, they don't understand what a marathon is, but if you get something that's fun and you can get an audience to engage with you, you know, quite often when I speak, I take different costumes with me and ask people to put them on, and sometimes they'll feel different. They'll feel self-conscious, or they'll feel, you know, bright and fun. And, you know, it just gets people into an immersive sort of experience. And, you know, some love it, some don't, you know, don't at all, but it creates conversation. And that's what I'm trying to do. And as I say, kids, yeah, they just, you know, if they can go home saying, Mummy, I was a strawberry, or I was a carrot today at school. Why was that? Oh, this lady came in and she was talking about mental health. Hopefully they'll remember that and make it just that little bit different, and yeah, take the lessons from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's like children, but do you have a favorite costume?
It's got to be the orange. I have different ones. I have a slice, I have a segment, I have a full one. But yeah, it's got to be that one, just because it's me. That's where it all started. And on that very first marathon that I did as an orange, I ended up getting the Guinness World Record for the fastest marathon dressed as a piece of fruit by Sally Orange. So to have that certificate in my bedroom is quite, in my office is quite funny.
And this is the thing, you make it fun. And there's something else you haven't mentioned. You've got a few more than just one Guinness World Record, haven't you?
I have. I've actually got, I've got 6 certificates now, and I've got another 5 sort of world first. So I did a marathon in the London Eye to symbolise the highs and lows, or the ups and downs that the pandemic had on the nation's mental health. And then 6 days later, on World Mental Health Day, I ran a marathon in a mine up in North Yorkshire. So it was a mile underground.
Wow.
And I called it Beneath the Surface, because you never know what's going on beneath the surface in somebody else's mine, and got the Guinness World Record for the world's deepest underground marathon. And as you say, after about 50 marathons, somebody said to me, "You're completely nuts." And I thought, what a great idea. So I got a nut costume. I put a sign on it that said, "Nuts about mental health, together we can crack it," and got the Guinness World Record for the fastest marathon dressed as a nut. So you could say I'm completely fruity and nuts.
Yeah, you are crackers. And but this is the thing, people will talk to you. Now, you're now a public speaker. You go out and you inspire people. Did you ever see yourself being a public speaker?
I went for 2 years that I didn't even speak on the phone. So for me to now be on stage and speak to people, but I think that's the power of how much it means to me. You know, I've really kind of worked I literally didn't leave the house for 2 months, and as I say, didn't speak on the phone. I just didn't have the confidence to speak on the phone. So the fact that I now do this it amazes me that I've put myself in that position. Nobody said you've got to do this as a career, but that's how much it means to me. So no, I never ever saw this coming from anywhere.
And it's quite nerve-wracking, isn't it, going up on stage? And if you do a poll of what are you scared of, all the different phobias, there's spiders, there's heights, scared of death.
Public speaking
comes out on top.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, think at a funeral when someone's doing a eulogy. Most people would rather be in the coffin than doing the eulogy, which is quite bizarre. And here you are going out and doing it. So, what's your furthest you've gone to do a speaking gig? Where have you done any?
Well, I've seen your Canadian flag. I have been to Canada. I'm a national ambassador for the Army Cadet Force, so
fantastic.
I've sort of been championing young people, and I was doing an event in Alaska, and so were some Army cadets when I was there, and we kind of linked up with them, and so sort of spoke with them. And then I've done a couple in France. I was recently asked to go, Budapest. I was asked to go to, but unfortunately, I was just coming back from Everest, and I had quite a nasty chest infection, and I couldn't quite make it, unfortunately. But hopefully next year I'll get the opportunity to go.
Absolutely. And if anyone wants you to come and do a talk, they just get in contact with you on LinkedIn. Is that the best place?
LinkedIn or sallyorange.com is my webpage, where in the news section there's more of the other things that I've done, because as I say, it's not just running, but I make it applicable to whatever the audience. So be it young people, be it corporates, my time in the military, leadership, resilience, sort of overcoming adversity, many different types of topics, the beauty of failure. I failed my A-levels, resat them, did even worse the second time, and basically to become a physiotherapist, from first applying to finally graduating, it took me 9 years, because I just kept getting rejected. And so that was you're not good enough, this story going round and round in my head. But then, ironically, 30 years after I first applied to the same university that I ended up finally getting accepted from after all those rejections, I got an email from them saying, we'd like to offer you an honorary doctorate for services to physiotherapy and mental health.
So are you now Dr. Sally?
Yeah, forget Dr. Pepper. This is Dr. Orange.
Dr. Sally Orange, MBE, retired major. Is that because you're a major in the
Yes, yeah. I think it's Dr. Major Retired Sally Orange MBE.
Your business card needs to be this wide, doesn't it?
I'm still just Sally, really, though.
Absolutely. And do you know Chris Lomas? He does the For Hope charity. He's just said, greetings from Moldova. This is you're an incredible guest. He said, everyone's a fruit and nut case. Sally just takes it to the next level. So absolutely.
Thank you, Chris. That's lovely. But everyone loves a fruit and nut case. I had wanted to, so I've been bananas, I've been nuts, I've done marathons as a Christmas cracker and a cream cracker. And earlier this year, I was doing the London Marathon again, and I wanted to be a Fruit Loop. But I was running for Samaritans, and it didn't quite fit with Samaritans and Fruit Loop. So we just adapted it, and I became a cereal box of fruit and fibre. And then just on the back just said that your mental health is as important as your breakfast cereal.
Nice.
So there's always ways of changing it round just to make it fun. But the vegetables, I was due next week to be going to, this week I was due on Wednesday to be going to Greenland, where I'd already been frozen peas in Antarctica, so it was going to be a carrot. But unfortunately, I've had to cancel it. But it'll still be there next year, and I'll be a frozen carrot. It was going to be a marathon on the Saturday and then a half marathon on the Sunday, so I was going to do one as carrots and one as peas.
Well done.
Yeah.
You get to go to some amazing places as well. Now, I don't know if you noticed, I'm drinking water here, but you don't always drink water, do you, Sally? You've got a little story about
I
that
do
as
have a
well,
little,
haven't
I
you?
know what you're getting at here. Yes.
Sorry,
So
I'm taking the
well, it's given me a story, put it this way. So
absolutely.
2015, I took on the Marathon des Sables, which for
Hang on,
anyone who doesn't
just
know,
explain what that is, because
yeah.
it just
So
sounds like another marathon.
so seven marathons, 6 marathons in 7 days across the Sahara Desert, where you carry all your own kit. It's incredibly hot, and the terrain is basically sand. So the impact on your feet, the blisters, it's an incredible challenge. Oh, and the fourth day is actually a double marathon as well. So I set off on the first day. I really struggled with vomiting. I think I got a heat exhaustion, and I got to one of the checkpoints and I just threw up. And so they kept me there, and I had to have fluids and nearly had to have a drip, but luckily I came round. And then the next day, I managed to finish it pretty much last. But I'm not about being the fastest or the fittest. I just go out to have fun, and enjoy myself. And on the second day, I had problems the other end with really bad diarrhea. And on the third day, I thought, right, I've got to look after myself. I need to drink. Woke up in the middle of the night, thought, right, I need to drink something. So I had some water. I thought, it doesn't taste quite right. And the next morning, I saw a bright orange bottle on my tent mate. So I say a tent, it's a bivouac. So it's a shelter. And I saw this bright orange bottle on his sleeping bag, and I said, "Oh, what electrolyte drink are you using?" And he said, "Oh, no, you don't want to drink that." And I said, "No, I already have." And it dawned on me that his feet were so blistered that he couldn't take the 20 steps out of the tent to go for a pee. So he'd done it in the bottle and just put it next to my head. So
Nice.
I had drank that. So the whole tent erupted into laughter, and then the next tent, and then it kind of went round. And anyway, the next
did what? She drank what?
next day was a double day, and finished that, and managed to finish the whole thing. I'm not quite sure how. And finished the event, and at the airport, and this guy said to me, he said, "Oh, how did you find it?" And I said, "Well, on the first day I vomited, on the second day I had diarrhea, third day I drank my tent mate's pee." And he was like, "That was you." He said, "Oh my goodness." He said, "You got me through the Marathon des Sables." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." He said, "Well, whenever I was thinking that I can't carry on, I just thought to myself, at least I'm not that girl who drank her tent mate's pee." So it's just a story that you never know how your actions are inspiring other people. But yes, it's given me a story.
So basically, you did it on purpose to motivate that guy. That's your story. What's the toughest challenge you've ever done, Sally?
I've done quite a few. So I cycled across America as a team, something called the Race Across America. But I think the toughest single marathon has got to be the Everest one. The altitude, even just standing still at base camp, you were sort of out of breath. So that is the single toughest one that I've done. And people quite often ask, how do I keep going? And for me, it's a real choice when I take on these challenges. But my mental health, when it was at its worst, it wasn't a choice, and it was life and death. Whereas, these challenges, I can just stop, or I can pull out, drop out, and it's not going to have a massive impact on anything or anyone. So, and I always remember still how bad I felt. And I just think this is not as bad as how I felt when I was incredibly unwell. So that quite often motivates me to be able to continue. So there are some tough challenges, but the toughest challenge has been my mental health, without a doubt. That's the toughest. It was an endurance challenge. And as I say, I'm still on that journey. It's not suddenly gone away, but it's just having the tools and techniques of knowing what can help. The same as if I was running, I perhaps would change my trainers, or eat something different, drink something different. So it's the life lessons that you can take from it that I try and use as well.
Yeah, lovely. But you did something about it. You picked up the phone, you called the Samaritans, you asked for help. There might be someone listening to this that can't see a way out, and they're not going to pick up the phone and ask for help. So what message have you got for them?
The great thing is now, with all different support networks, they recognise that not everybody can ask for help vocally. So you can email joe@samaritans.org. You can text, shout, and you can get texts. So it's sort of looked at how we are in society and how we communicate. And so there are different ways. We all know the impact that a text can have for us, that somebody's checked in on us, or the feeling that we get when we get an email, or actually just a card. When I was really unwell, what I did actually do to help myself, because I didn't want to be on my own, but I didn't want to be with anyone either. And I found I wasn't at the point to be able to run a marathon. I couldn't even go downstairs, or I didn't leave the house. But I started making different cards, because I couldn't go wrong with that. It's whether you put a blue or black on different things on different backgrounds, and it was creative. And that was the type of cards that I would have liked to have received from people, just to know that they were there, that they were perhaps there thinking of me. And I have been asked, what motivated you to get better? I didn't have any motivation, but it was the necessity to eat, because I didn't eat to begin with. And it's the people around you as well that can, perhaps when you don't want to eat, they can make the food for you, and they can sit with you and eat it and tell you the need to do it, because you think, well, there is no need. So it's a support of loved ones around you, or sometimes people you don't even know. But I do promise that things can get better. It's not easy, but it can get better, and there is a will in you to fight that, to continue for another day. And Samaritan's motto this year with the London Marathon was, believe in tomorrow. That was their campaign. So that there is a tomorrow, and just remember, it can be like the weather, that it can be pretty rubbish for quite a few days, but it can change, and you can get the rainbow.
It does get better. Yeah. It does get better. Yeah. Oh, Sally, you have been absolutely delightful. You're going to have to get you back, because there's so much more we can unpack. But you've got a question for me about LinkedIn. Before we do that, I'm just going to quickly go and find out who I've got on my show next week, just to give Nathaniel a little shout out. I hope I put it in here. Yes, I did. So I got Nathaniel coming in to talk to me next week about protecting our business. Sally, what's your question about LinkedIn for me today?
Yeah, so I've been on LinkedIn for a while, but I don't feel I use it to its best, because I don't know if people know about me. So it's, how can I get myself known on LinkedIn? Do I need to change maybe my profile picture, or just any tips from you on, because sometimes you can post and you can get loads of engagement, and other times you don't get any engagement at all. So I'd be really interested to find out and learn, if you can answer that.
So the thing is, people buy from people who they know, like, and trust. They want to see you, and you've got a lovely smiley face there. And what I find is a lot of people have a picture of them doing something, and all we need is our photo on LinkedIn is a picture of our face. So fill that screen up as much as you can, and you're going to win straight away, because you've got a lovely smiley face, and then you put orange behind you, so you just stick out like a sore thumb. Because the thing is,
I put the orange behind me rather than wear the orange.
No, just an orange background behind you. Look, we'll have a little chat afterwards, and I can do this for you. But the whole idea is having your face filling up that circle, because on my mobile phone, you're 6 millimeters big.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're stood up doing a talk, then I'm not going to see you. But if I see your smiley face and then orange behind you, I've got automatic recognition that you are Sally Orange.
Top tip. Thank you.
No worries at all. Thanks for the question. Got some quick comments before we say goodbye. Chris is saying you were simply inspirational.
Thank you, Chris.
Mihal saying thank you very much for sharing your journey, and Chris has sent a connection request. Sally, thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I've been looking forward to it. I've been telling everybody that you were on. Thank you for being such an inspiration, and thank you for your lovely smile as well.
Oh, thank you so much. And don't we look great? We look like oranges and lemons.
Absolutely. We need to go and have a gin and tonic now, don't we?
Yeah, no, thank you. Really lovely. Yeah, really lovely to chat with you. And thank you so much for having me on your show.
Anytime, Sally. If you've got anything coming up and you want to promote it, let's do another show. You take care. Cheerio.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashley. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
You get out what you put in. Never